Greetings, dear friends. It's an honor to welcome you on ALLATRA TV Africa. Today, we continue our discussion of creative society and are glad to find out the vision of our special guests. And we have a special guest from Nigeria, Ijeoma Nwafor. She's a country representative of Hague Institute of Innovation of Law, HiiL. Ijeoma will tell us a bit more about her organization, but we will also have her share with us her vision of creative society. So my name is Olga, and my co-host today is Kanu from Nigeria. Hello, Kanu. Hello, Ijeoma. Welcome to the program.
Hello,
Hi, Olga.
Olga. Nice being here. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Olga and Ijeoma, and hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be back to participate again on Creative Podcast. The Creative Society is a volunteer organization that asks people from all over the country, all over the world, about how they envision a happy people's society. And today, as Olga already had told you, we are going to have this creative chat with our guests on the topic, people-centered justice. I would also want to let you know that the program is open for everyone. You too can participate. You can also visit our website on allatraunites.com. We have a very special guest today, like you had, Olga had introduced her. We are going to ask her to tell us a little about herself, what she does, what inspires her. And in the next 40 minutes, these are all that we're going to discuss. She's going to share with us her idea about people-centered justice, her idea about creative society, and what it takes to make people happy, what it takes to get justice across to people. Let me get to you, Ijeoma. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you to share with us, please. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What inspires you? What do you do? And how do you do it? Let's begin from that angle.
Okay, thank you. Like you said, I work with HiiL and here at the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law, we are trying to answer the question of how best people outside the structured and institutional justice system can actually obtain justice. One of the values that Creative Society has is that of justice. And HiiL is simply questioning the status quo. Everybody is not going to have access to a courtroom, but people may experience injustice. So how can we now redesign the delivery of justice to satisfy the needs of the everyday people? And so those innovations is what HiiL is about. We do what we do by talking to people about people-centered justice as opposed to institutionally centered justice. We try to change or orient the mindset of lawyers and people in the judicial and legal profession so that they will remember that whatever profession you have in life, it's supposed to serve humanity. Sometimes we forget that. We become so institutionalized. So we do that by going out and meeting people and talking to people and facilitating dialogues amongst critical stakeholders. Me personally, I love what I do. I've always been in the social impact space, but HiiL is my first experience with justice. I've worked in the health sector, education, governance. I just like being in spaces that impact human beings. I like social impact work. My level of profitability is best measured when my actions actually positively affects other people. So that's what I do. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much. It's very inspiring, and thank you for sharing. You must find it very important that everyone gets access to justice. And could you please share your vision of a creative society where every person lives comfortably, where all conditions are created so that everyone could live a fulfilled life? What is creative society for you?
A creative society for me will be one that it's not really about equality as much as it is about equity. That's not sameness, but fairness. The reason why I started downplaying the importance of equality is that we're just not equals. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. We're different. Now, but if we focus on what society can do so people will feel fairly treated, I think we'll have a better society. And we have to be creative in that, hence creative society, because when you meet somebody, even if you're different from them, you start asking those things you appreciate. How can you get that person to be a part of that journey? They may not necessarily sit where you're sitting, but they should be able to catch the view you're catching, because it's the human thing to do. So my idea is that I think we should start talking more about issues of equity, because it is from equity that equality can even have a chance. So even if you're talking like in Nigeria, men and women is a major thing, because religiously and traditionally and culturally, men are supposed to be bigger or stronger or whatever than women. I don't even mind that, but be fair to women. Don't maltreat them because you think you are bigger than them. So that I think a creative society is that which emphasizes that whether you're big, small, whatever, you need to be treated fairly to maintain human dignity.
All right, that's very interesting. And equity, that's what you're saying. Equity being fairness, being just, so that it's not about might taking over precedent, but it's about rights for everyone. That's very, very, very inspiring. Ijeoma, thank you for that. You love traveling, and you have said you've traveled across the globe. And we would want you to share with us your experience during your travels. Did you notice if there is any difference among the different peoples of the world? And if you did, what is it that you noticed? And then we would also like you to share with us what you think among all these people that you have met. What did you think unites them, irrespective of their, religion, social status, or political view? Could you share with us?
Thank you. I love that question because nobody has ever asked me that. And sometimes I try to assert it in conversations because I've lived in two continents. I grew up in the US, I worked in the US, I schooled in the US, and now I've been in Nigeria for 14 years. And in between, of course, I've traveled to other places, like you mentioned. But one thing that resonates is the humanness of us. The humanness, what I mean is that if you take away all this clutter, whether it's race, gender, geographical location, money, politics, we're just human beings. And I think human beings just want to be happy. They want to be accepted. They want to feel like they have a purpose. So for me, these are like basic stuff. So for me, having lived in two continents and traveled to several others, is like, I remind myself that there's that humanness. Even the worst of us is still human. They're yearning for some kind of I shouldn't call it that, but some kind of validation. So that humanness runs across. Now, the difference, of course, are those other things I mentioned: politics, money, how tall are you, how short you are, how fair are you, how dark you are. So those are the things that I think are different. And it is so easy to get caught up in all those things that we think makes us different that we forget how human we are. My little girl asked me, she went to an all-girls boarding school and she was getting ready to go to the university. And she said to me, I don't know how to adjust to having boys in the school. And I said to her, well, no, boys are just like girls. So if you know what's going to hurt a girl, it's going to hurt a boy. If you know what's going to make a girl happy, it's going to make a boy happy. So when you're making friends, just remember that human beings all need the same things in different ways. So the same way you want to understand what makes your friend happy, try to understand what makes your male friend happy. Respect them. Everybody likes it. So when I was done, she now said something to me. She said, so you're basically saying that apart from the biological difference, that in all of it, we should try to reach out to the soul of each person. And I love that, because that to me is humanness, the soul of everyone. Everyone wants a happy soul, even when they're miserable. That's what they're seeking. I'd like to think that. So yeah, that's how I see it. If we can really, and it's difficult, if we can suppress that simplistic way of looking at people. Oh, you see somebody, you already think, oh, she's a woman, she's this, and you attach all this stereotypes to them, and you don't even give them a chance. You miss it. You miss the fact that this is just a soul just walking across the earth like you and just seeking validation, love, happiness, joy. I mean, the way we all go about it may be different, but we're seeking the same thing, I think. I'd like to think so.
Thank you so much. This is very valuable words what you mentioned, because when you're reaching out to people from your soul, this is the real conversation. Apart from all the physical differences and outside differences, because of course we are different on the outside, but we're inside, that's what matters the most. And you promote the people-centered justice. And this is very interesting that justice is one of the 8 foundations of creative society. It's one of the pillars for achieving creative society. And we will stop at this particular foundation a little bit later. And before, I wanted to ask our technical support to show all the foundations of creative society that were formed after thousands of interviews, social polls, roundtables, where people discussed what society they want to live in and what is important in their life primarily. What are the main values should be in a happy society? So I would like to offer us to watch this video.
The biggest social polling in our entire history of civilization has been conducted during the last 10 years by people around the world. 180 countries, millions of people of different social statuses, denominations, nationalities, talk about the society in which they want to live in. And this is a creative society. Based on the answers of the people from around the world, 8 foundations of creative society were established. A society where all people can live in happiness, peace, and prosperity. This is that very society that our prophets bequeathed to us. All prophets talked about the value of life, freedom, honesty, common human values, equality before God, mutual respect, and unification of people, about love for each other. They talked about the common truth and about the world which we can create. The prophet said, there will be a time when we're able to build a creative society. We are honored to live in the time which the prophets talked about, when everyone is chosen.
All right, that was everyone is chosen. And Ijeoma, I must tell you that I love the description I could see behind you, user-friendly justice. you really are taken in by, these your struggles to see that justice gets to everyone, and it's quite inspiring, you know. And just like Olga did mention, the seventh foundation of the Creative Society is about justice. We would like to share your opinion, what you think about this seventh foundation. But before we continue, let's look at what the seventh foundation is saying. Then we come back to you, and then we hear from you what you think about it.
7. Justice and equality. All natural resources belong to humans and are fairly distributed among all people. Monopolization of resources and their irrational use is prohibited. These resources are fairly distributed among the citizens of the entire earth. A human is guaranteed employment if he or she so desires. Pay for an identical position, specialty, or profession should be the same all over the world. Everyone has the right to private property and income, however, within the limits of the individual's capitalization amount set by the society. 7. Justice and
All right, we're back to you, Ijeoma. Would you share with us your opinion about the seventh foundation, justice and equality?
Yeah, like I said, I spoke earlier. I believe that justice should be people-centered and less institutionally centered, so that people will have realistic access to justice. Justice is supposed to be a commodity. It's not a luxury, but you can bear me witness that it is now a luxury, because automatically people think about going to courts, getting a lawyer. How many people can actually afford that process in terms of time, cost, and even patience? So that's my view on justice. In terms of equality, I think the idea of equality is idealistic, is achievable only if we address the issue of equity first. Fairness. So while we're unequal, can I be treated fairly in my unequalness before I start trying to meet up with you? So that's my take. I think equity is the right way to think, that we're all created equal before God. I agree with that. But here on earth, we would need to find a way to educate and open people's minds to see that in our inequality, in the eyes of man, we still should approach people with dignity. And so there's fairness at all levels, so that it is when I am comfortable and you're comfortable that I can begin to even start to aspire for equality. And perhaps even when I'm aspiring for it, I'm doing it with dignity. So that's my take on that. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my take on it.
Of course it does, because that's what we all want. We have to start with equity to move towards the equality. I agree with you absolutely. And I know that you're familiar with all 8 foundations of Creative Society. And how do you think the implementation of 8 foundations can eliminate violence and conflicts in society?
Wow. I pray and hope that it's achievable. Implementation would be, I think we underrate the power of conversations. There's something I do whenever I meet a stranger in a place that I'm going to stay for more than 10 minutes. I strike up a social conversation about values that I think we don't discuss enough. So I think to implement the 8, it's possible it's going to take a lifetime. But, I'm a Gandhist. I believe that, you just change the world, your corner of the world, and it kind of transmits, because somebody from your corner will change their corner and it keeps growing. So it's achievable. is a tedious task and a tall order. I must applaud you all for having the courage to even take that journey. I like the spiritual undertone to it. I'm not a big fan of religion, organized religion. So I participate in organized religion, but I'm not a big fan. Because I also think it further divides societies. In Nigeria, we have a lot of, you talked about violence. Most of the violence we experience in Nigeria is either based on ethnicity or religion, those two. And then followed thirdly by politics. So these are all man-made processes that has gotten us here. On a final note, with regards to your question, in all of the 8 principles or foundations, I just, what I like about them is that it transcends those things that keeps us apart. I give talks around the country, and I've gone to give a talk, and like 90% of the audience were Muslim. And I said to them, I said, wow, you're lucky. You were born a Muslim, but then you would have been lucky too. If you were born in Israel, you wouldn't be a Muslim. And the whole place got quiet because I was trying to make the point. You're just who you are because of where you're born. But these foundations transcends all those things. It doesn't matter where you're born. It doesn't matter how you are. These are principles that I think, like you said, will make the world, humanity a better one.
Thank you so much. And I would like to ask you, maybe there is some other foundation you would like to stop, in particular you like. I can name them all for you.
Yes.
So
please.
you remember.
Yes.
It's so from the 1st to 8th.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So the first one is human life. Second one, human freedom. Third, human safety. Fourth, transparency and openness of information for all. Fifth,
that's it.
Okay.
Sorry.
So transparency and openness of information for all.
Yes. Yes, I'm a very big fan of transparency. I crave for it here in Nigeria. Our style of governance is very secretive. Culturally, people are secretive. They're paranoid, not even just secretive. People don't share information with other people. They're hiding it. They're hoarding it. And imagine if we were in a world really where there's transparency of information. If you know something like a child, have you been around a toddler who just learns one new word in class? That's all they're going to use the whole day. They're going to, like, if they learn transparency, they'll come home and want to use it in every sentence. And I think that's what that foundation reminds me of. The freshness of it, of wanting to share, of it, wanting to impart knowledge, of not wanting to hide so much. What are we hiding? I mean, how is it ours to begin with? I think knowledge is transient in that you get it, and if you don't transmit it, after some time, it goes away. So why not just keep sharing it? Be naked about it, like let everybody see it. So what? And if you're that way, you're also thirsty for somebody else to teach you something. So you're not just a teacher, you're also a learner. Because once you imbibe that particular foundation, it's a two-way street. Like I'll meet Olga and I'm saying, I'd like to learn from Olga. And she's also eager to learn from me. So at some point I'm talking, you're listening, or you're listening and I'm talking. And yeah, I love that foundation, by the way.
Thank you for the comment. And I would like to continue. Maybe you want to stop on some other ones. So the 5th one is creative ideology. 6th one, development of personality. 7th, we already talked about justice and equality. And 8th, self-governing society.
Yeah. Ideally, you would want I'd like to go with the human safety, because the level of insecurity we're facing in Nigeria is making it's dawning on me that, wow, security should come first, really. And it's not particular to Nigeria. If you look all over the world, there's something. In the US, there's mass shooting and all manner of craziness going on around. You can take on the issue of the COVID-19. It's a safety issue. So human safety, it's ideal, but I think that's something we should really try to work on. It makes life a lot lighter if you feel safe. I was in Kaduna, one of the states here in Nigeria. The insecurity is so bad that they're using technology, communication tech, to control that space. So what does that mean? Like they're like about 85% of the state can't use their phones any longer, but they had to do it. So the other 15% of the locations that you can't call outside. And so is that really life, So yeah, human safety, it's important.
Thank you. I agree with you, because safety is not about only physical safety. You want to be like economics, for example. Mm-hmm. We are not safe. We don't know what will happen tomorrow on the market, right? On the stock market. We don't know if we lose everything tomorrow because of the climatic change or any other disasters that may happen. We are not safe, not only because of people that around us, but also climate, health, new viruses, bacteria that bring more scare in people, and also the economical, right? There's so many issues right now going on in society that it's time to think what's really valuable in our life, right? And I wanted to mention before we continue that creative society is very contagious. It's like one of our guests mentioned this word, contagious, and I really like it because everyone wants to live in a happy society. Everyone wants to believe, even, it's hard to believe in nowadays realities that it's possible, but it's really possible because it's up to us. So I would like Kanu to continue and tell us about what happened on July 24th.
Olga, while listening to Ijeoma, what I love most is her openness. She's really living that transparency which she champions. And it is also interesting to know that, like you said, this creative society idea is really contagious because every one of us wants to live a happy life. We want our children, our loved ones, we want the good life for everyone. On that basis, on the 24th of July, 2021, that's this year, on the platform of our LATRA International Public Movement platform, this conference was held. The conference, let me just mention it, is a global crisis. This already affects everyone. It was held, and then it was also translated in over 72 languages. Honestly, during this conference, so much was said. So much was said also frankly, modestly, on global climate change. So much was said on the fourth industrial technology or civilization, if you like. A lot was also said on the refugee crisis and so many of the crises that, it's beginning to affect every one of us, which we could also feel and we could see, if not directly or indirectly. Now, I would like to ask Ijeoma, what is her take, what she thinks about making human life the number one value for our society. What I'm asking in essence is that, what will you say about, you talked about safety, about the need to secure our environment and secure lives. So now could you relate it to the fact that how much value should we attach to human life? What importance is it in our modern society?
Thank you very much for that question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. It's one thing I know, I think we should attach value to human life, but it's a difficult concept for people who are in war-torn or poverty-stricken places to grasp. Some of them have no value for human life. That's why they can send people out and strap them with bombs, because there's nothing to look forward to. So again, I think we should definitely attach value to human life, but we can only succeed if people actually have value for human life. You have to, the life has to be of quality for you to attach value to it. I'm a psychologist by profession. I've counseled people who are depressed and want to commit suicide. And whether it's in the US or in Nigeria, the humanness of that sort of thing is that they've detached themselves from the possibility of quality of life, and it means nothing to them. So if we're going to address that, the human life, value to human life, we now have to also define what that looks like. What are we attaching value to? If I'm educated and I have children, I'm happy, I'm doing things that I like to do, of course I want to hold on to life. But if we were the opposite, it might be a hard sell for me to attach value to life. So when we are trying to be globalistic about it, then you need to figure out how to attach value to a life in Afghanistan, United States, Ukraine, Nigeria, because the value addition in their lives may differ. And so when you're talking about human life and defining what it is, why should someone add value to it? Because it's meaningful to them. So first we have to add meaning to people's lives so they'll have something to hold on to. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think you're right, because, for some people to understand the value of the human life, they have to face real difficulties like earthquake or, flood, when they lose everything and all they have is their life. They went through this cataclysm, for example, and they stayed alive. So, and now they understand that as long as they are alive, they can rebuild, redo some things, and have their life back. Of course, it's hard, but when people help, when people don't stay aside, they review their values in their life. And of course, for some people, they understand what's the value of the human life. But for some people, they have to face real, stress, really difficult situations when their life was on the verge of, Creative Society project put value of the human life on the first place. It's a first foundation in the list of the foundations. And I would like to ask our technical support to show short excerpt from the conference that will show the topics that were raised at this conference.
Modern civilization has entered the stage of instability and global crisis.
The future has already arrived. In the field of artificial intelligence, I really understand that today we see tremendous opportunities and possibilities.
We will have human-level intelligence in terms of problem solving, and that we could have that pretty soon.
And in the consumer society we live in today, it will leave us jobless.
Hello, you are fired.
Every owner of some corporation will create a number of machines, fill it with artificial intelligence, so a human being will simply become out of demand in this chain. Millions of people around the world have already become climate refugees. The events are developing at a shocking speed. The force of cataclysms is growing in progression. Their frequency is increasing every day.
What you can see here is in red are the amount of this particular characteristic of the planet, that is left. And we can see that in many cases, we have lost more than 60, 50, 60, 70% of this particular ecosystem or species.
We're eating our planet. Maybe it's time we realize our responsibility and solve our problems together.
Because sudden large-scale natural disasters occur on the planet on a daily basis. And there are fewer and fewer safe places.
Soon, everyone will be hungry, barefoot, naked. Because of consumerism, we are the generation that will see it through. Either we can stand up to it, or it will end with us.
180 countries on the platform of ALLATRA International Public Movement.
It is broadcast live on thousands of YouTube and other streaming channels. Moreover, thanks to volunteers from around the world who understand the importance of this event, the conference is simultaneously translated into 72 languages.
The main value in a creative society is human life, the life of your children, your loved ones.
Only together can we find solutions. And we all want peace and happiness. And together, we can create this world.
Thank you. And you see the scale of the Creative Society project now, and it honestly showed the global crisis our humanity faces in different spheres, such as climate change, environment and ecology problems, refugee crisis, and fourth industrial revolution. And I'm offering everyone to view the conference for themselves. We will attach link at the bottom of this video in the description to this video, to this program, for everyone to review this conference. I find it very valuable because experts were invited and they spoke the truth. Scientists, anthropologists, climatologists, and so on, IT specialists tell us. And do you see the evidence of any of the mentioned crises in your country?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So many of them. The natural disasters, we're actually a bit lucky on that, but we do get floods. And we don't have the infrastructural governance support for such. So when it happens, people are displaced and there's little or no support coming to them. In terms of technology, I was even thinking about writing a paper just yesterday. I had traveled out to a state, like I said, and it occurred to me that when technology exists in a vacuum of human evolution or evolved human mind, it's dangerous. So, but what's happening, because the world is so porous, so when the robots start happening in the West, it will inevitably come to Africa, come to Nigeria, but we're not ready for it. People are unemployed now. High unemployment rate. So why would you want to replace human beings with machines when the human beings are not even trained for skilled labor? So we're not even there yet. And what's going to happen is one very brilliant exploitative businessman will now say, oh, let me bring those machines to Nigeria. And the society itself is not ready for it. We have phones in Nigeria, but a lot of Nigerians don't have identification that's attached to the phones. We're correcting that now, but I wish we had it before. Perhaps it will cut down on some insecurity issues we're having. I could go on and on and on. So in terms of the examples that you've given, we can relate to it here in Nigeria. It's more worrisome here, though, because we are literally, Nigeria and our experience reminds me of, I always have this analogy of a 3-year-old toddler who watches her mom apply makeup in the morning every day. And when mom is not around, she decides to go and apply makeup. No matter how long she's watched her mom, no matter how good she thinks she is, she's still 3. So I feel like developing economies and developing countries are having access to things that they're not equipped or evolved to manage. The dependencies that need to be built to even get to that point are not even in place. So it is even more disastrous. All those disastrous things happening around the world is even worse when it comes to a developing economy or a developing environment, because we're grappling with where we are, and then you complicate it further with technology that we have to be forced to consume. Now, of course, some may argue that, does it mean that technology is a bad thing? Well, I don't know, but we may have to look at the 8 foundations and see how technology has helped or hurt all 8 elements. Sometimes you can even argue that technology is responsible for the negligence of sorts of the environment, climate warming. What do companies manufacture that takes up so much, that produces so much heat? I bet if we analyze it, we'll find out it's all these equipments that provide some level of luxury and comfort to you and I. So there's a lot of, So I can relate, to answer your question, absolutely. But I always like to put things in the Nigerian context. And I think when I do that, it kind of sobers my enthusiasm that so much more work needs to be done if we're talking about humanity and not necessarily the West.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ijeoma. That was a very inspiring answer from you. Now, I would want to ask you if you would mind raising this topic on, do you think it's important to raise this topic on climate change, this robotic technology you talked about, environmental and ecological crisis, refugee crisis? Do you think it's important to raise them? Why is this so? And I would also want to use this opportunity to let you know that come December 4th, there's going to be an international conference, and matters like this would be fine if you could raise them and we have you discuss them. So I'm just asking you now whether you think it's important that such topics as you just mentioned, technology, robotic technology, environmental and ecological crisis, refugee crisis, global climate change, it's important we raise them, and why is this so?
Thank you. Yes, it's absolutely important to raise them. I call it environmental justice or climate justice. And the Chinese are moving into Africa aggressively, but they have major smog issues. I'm using it as an example of why it's important. So if we start now raising awareness, for instance, that perhaps in Nigeria, we're used to having power outages. If our power improves, which it has started improving, why should Nigeria still go for power in the same pattern that the West has gone and is now reverting back to solar energy? Why don't we just skip that and go to solar energy? Do you understand what I mean? Like, if renewable energy is best, why then sell the outdated, unhealthy energy consumption to developing economies? Why don't we just jump it and just sell them the renewable energy? I don't even see any other place on earth that can produce more solar energy than Africa as a continent. So that's why we need to start raising these issues now, where if we're being honest, then we shouldn't allow developing economies to experience what developed economies now know is not good. They did it, they didn't know it wasn't good for the earth. Now we know it's not good for climate. So why would China or any other country be coming into African countries with the same technology, with the same approach to energy? I'm just taking up climate change and energy as an example. So that's why it's important to raise. But when those issues are raised, all I'm pleading is, let us not be myopic about any of these 8 foundations that you have and any of these topics, because we are not, I don't want to say we're not created equal. We are not equal in our stages of development. So if you're talking about renewable energy, talk about renewable energy that applies to developing economies and Africa and some Asian countries and South African countries, South American countries, and also talk about renewable energies for those who already established their energy and they're now taking it back to nature and making it renewable, so that everyone in the conference will have something to go home with. I can, where we are in that space is not where somebody from the US is, or somebody from Canada or anywhere else. So that's just all I wanted to bring that spin to it. I like to challenge our sensibilities about some of these things, because we get comfortable thinking it's a one-sided narrative or one myopic story. There are different chapters to this ambition of ours for a creative society. Let me use it that way.
Yes, before Olga will come in, much as I love what you just said, it's good to be open, and it's good to be, not to be stingy with facts, with information. This spreading of awareness, if I take on this global climate change, I think there is this cyclic climate change that happens after every 12,000 years, and it doesn't depend on maybe human factors. And awareness about it is still way backward, especially in our part of the world where we don't really know about it. So when we talk about these environmental and ecological changes, we sometimes tend to equate them with this cyclic climate change that happens, at these regular intervals. And it would be really nice, Ijeoma, if you take out time to participate in this conference that will be coming up on December 4th. But I think we will talk about that much later. I think Olga has something to say. Olga?
Yes, as a continuation of what Ijeoma said and you said, I wanted to mention that in 7th Foundation of Creative Society, it's mentioned about the natural resources, that all natural resources belong to a human and are fairly distributed among all people. Monopolization of resources and their irrational use is prohibited. These resources are fairly distributed among the citizens of the entire Earth. And what I'm going at, that nowadays, with all the climate disasters and catastrophes that are touching every country nowadays, less and less safe places on the planet, and we have more resources of something in one country, and we don't have these resources in another country. And in creative society, they're fairly distributed, and countries can have an exchange of, we have lots of fresh fruits, for example, and seeds, and in African countries, for example, and teas and coffees, and we have some other resources which African people need of in other countries, and we just have an exchange of these products where we don't even need money for that. We just have an exchange, it's fairly distributed among all people and everyone has everything. Because right now, if you look, some countries have too much of something, and some of them are wasted, and some countries don't even have the basic need of the same resources. And I think it's very, very wrong. And we can fix it by creating the conditions for it. But of course, we have to start from informing people about that we can live in creative society, that we should start talking about it, because like you mentioned at the beginning, it's very important for us to keep conversation, to talk to each other, to exchange opinions, because every person's opinion comes from their own valuable experience. You have an experience in your life which I never had, and I won't ever have it. You have your unique opinion about things, because it goes through all your life experience, and you are a specialist or an expert in some areas which I'm not, and you can bring your valuable thoughts, valuable ideas and opinions on that topic. And people from different countries from the same field can exchange these opinions, ideas, and they come to a perfect and ideal conclusion and solution on a benefit of every human. So what we need really is talking to each other, keeping conversation, and that's what all these interviews are on the platform, ALLATRA platform, which we have today. We talk, we exchange opinions, we share understandings, and this is very valuable. And please, everyone, join these interviews, join these conversations. We need everyone. We need everyone on board.
Yes, Olga, and part of that, joining that conversation, usually during a broadcast such as this, we as our guests, we test what we call the CIS handshake theory. This theory simply says that all people on the planet are collected in not less than 6 or 5 social contacts. And we test this by asking our guests if they wouldn't mind to recommend someone we could talk with. And why do we do this? From our interviews and from our surveys and feedbacks, we found out that the more people get to know about a certain idea, the quicker that idea spreads. And so we want to use it in promoting the creative society idea, an idea where this inequality, this consumerist-oriented format of society, we give way to that society where everyone can be happy. That is the creative society idea we're talking about. So I wouldn't know, Ijeoma, would you like to invite someone to have a talk on the creative society in our next podcast?
Certainly, it will be my pleasure.
Oh, that's great.
Great, thank you. And Ijeoma, thank you so much for this wonderful interview today. And before we finish, I'd like to ask you, what is your message to humanity, to people who are watching us?
Wow. My message is, it will be great if we take ownership of the 8 foundations, because it transcends those things that make us think we're different. So we should just learn to celebrate the humanness of our existence and believe that things can be better if we remember that we're on this journey together. Even though it may appear that we're different, we are all in a journey together. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to say that for people, for those who heard for the first time about Creative Society Project and want to know more about it, they can go to allatraunites.com page to find out more all about Creative Society Project. And if you want to join Creative Society, it's also easy to do. You just go to the website, allatraunites.com, and press the button Join Us on our right top corner. Maybe our technical support will show us. And you can join millions of people who also strive to make a global change, as this change is possible only in unity of all people.
Yes, and it's important that you press that join button, because we would want to know how many people support this idea. And like I said earlier, the more people that support this idea, then a happier world we will build, and we'll all be happier for it. Thank you, Ijeoma, for sharing your inspiring ideas with us. And thank you, our dear viewers, for your patience to sit it out with us, to watch us through these minutes we have spent together. We are hoping that this message gets to really, like Ijeoma was saying, gets to energize us, to take up the 8 foundation ideas of the Creative Society, which transcends our differences, and build on that which unites us, a society where all of us can be proud of. Looking forward to having you join us in our next broadcast. Olga?
Thank you, Kanu, and I hope to see you soon again on our broadcast. And before I say goodbye, I want to say that we will watch a video about the next conference, which is coming up on the 4th of December. And I invite everyone to join Creative Society, participate in preparation to the conference, because these conferences, the ones you've seen already, and the one you will see now, this is all organized by people, by volunteers, which do it free of work time. Free of work time. They do it because they really want to live in a better future. They want a better future for their children and for every one of you. So let's join together, and there is nothing impossible, and everything is possible to change. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
On the threshold of a global systemic crisis, as we face planet-wide catastrophes, the largest scale unification of people in the known history of humankind, organized by people from 180 countries of the world, interpreted into 72 languages by volunteers live. Thousands of rebroadcasts on streaming platforms worldwide. Millions of viewers around the planet. International Conference Global Crisis. This already affects everyone. On the Allatra platform, a total of 72 speakers spoke out during the 12-hour live broadcast. Leading scientists, world-renowned opinion leaders, international activists and artists, and governmental representatives raise the most acute issues of modern society. What is the development of artificial intelligence leading to? What is the real scale of the ecological crisis? What is not being discussed at any forum on climate about the causes of natural disasters not related to human activity? How are we destroying the planet's resources and its biosystem? What is happening to the Earth's core? What conditions are climate refugees in? How can humanity unite to build the creative society where life is the main value? This event is completely changing the way we look at the world, because finally, people are speaking the truth. And this is just the beginning. We invite you to the next conference on December 4th, 2021. Global Crisis. Time for the Truth.